case 3.
I can go.
Okay.
So just from low power, now that we're zooming in, but from low power, you could even tell that there were just dilated spaces in the dermis. And if you look close, you can kind of see that you might think venous malformations, but it looks like there's some cuboidal-like cell lining that's a little bit monomorphic.
Yeah.
And there's multiple of these openings or dilated spaces, I should say. And, it's mostly one layers, but I think there's 2 layers lining it as well. So I think this is good for glomangioma.
Yeah, very good. So glomangioma, and the other name for this is glomuvenous malformation. And that's because, and you can see it kind of nicely here, like you said, if you took away the glomus cells, the rounded pericytes, which are modified smooth muscle cells around vessels, what you can actually see is there are layers of variable thickness, real smooth muscle lining these vascular channels. And an important thing is the vascular channel lining is actually endothelial cell, 1 layer thick, right? Look, there's even a little hobnailing. See, I told you hobnail can be seen in lots of different stuff. But then outside the channel, wrapping around the channel, are these very, like you said, cuboidal, round, monotonous, very beautiful, perfectly round almost, little dark nuclei. And they're very uniform in size and shape, and they tend to make these kind of rows that wrap around the outside of the vessels, right? Not inside, but the outside. And they often make multiple layers that are kind of sometimes called onion skinning. We use onion skinning a little bit too often in pathology, I think. We use it for a lot of different things. But it is kind of wrapping in layers. And a nice trick that my mentor, Dr. Weiss, taught me is that in glomus tumor and glomangioma, which are 2 different names, but they're basically the same concept. If you've got lots of vascular channels plus glomus cells, call it glomangioma. If it's more solid with smaller amount of channels, call it glomus tumor. The distinction is not of any real great significance usually. There is like a familial form of glomus or glomangiomas. But glomus tumors, I think, are not usually familial, but glomangiomas can be. But again, for practical purposes, distinguishing between these, they're both benign. There are very rare examples of malignant glomus or glomangioma, extremely rare. So anyway, back to my point, Dr. Weiss taught me that for a glomus, if you're thinking about glomus or glomangioma, if you look at vascular channels at the edge of the lesion, you'll see that the cells are continuing to track along the vessels as the vessels go out away from the lumen. Maybe there, although this could be lymphs. I'm not 100% sure in the scan. But you can see that here, that the vessels are still wrapped by these glomus cells as they exit and go out into the tissue away from the lesion. So you don't usually need that rule. You just look and I say, oh, glomangioma, next case. But every once in a while, they have kind of tricky morphology, and seeing that at the edge can be helpful. So these cells, if you need to know for testing purposes, in real life, it's usually an H&E diagnosis. But glomus cells will stain with actin, smooth muscle actin, but they're usually negative for desmin, okay? And they also, they tend to be wrapped, individual cells are wrapped in their own layer of basement membrane. So if you wanted, you can use a PAS or a collagen type 4 stain, and it will show a nice ring of stain around every individual cell. It's very pretty. Again, almost never needed, but it's kind of a nice trick. And I've had a couple tricky ones where they had very unusual features, and the stains were kind of helpful there. So that's glomangioma or glomuvenous malformation. And I know glomus is classically under the nail bed, but they can really occur like almost anywhere on the body. I've seen them on the arm, the trunk, the leg, the knee, pretty much anywhere. They can be in internal organs, usually the solid glomus. I don't know if I've ever seen a glomangioma in an internal visceral organ that I can recall. Sure, it could happen, but I don't remember seeing one. But glomus tumors can occur in internal organs. What's the most common visceral organ to have a glomus tumor? Does anyone know? It's the stomach. The stomach. They can get kind of big in the stomach too.